Welcome to Comic and Screen. My name is Sam Otten, and with me is Jason Book. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Batman, the Rebirth Era, issue number 9. So this is the story by Tom King, and in this issue, we have art by Mikel Janin. And this is kicking off Batman gathering together sort of his Suicide Squad. And I think this is probably leading up towards the Suicide Squad Justice League crossover that's supposed to come at the end of 2016, which I actually am. I'm not always a huge crossover guy. I like kind of standalone stories in their own titles, but I am really looking forward to Suicide Squad and Justice League sort of going toe to toe or whatever that ends up being. But here we have kind of a prelude to that, I think, where Batman had a confrontation with Waller, and now he's getting his team together. And we have an introduction to Bane. So let's start talking about that first scene. We get a few pages of this introduction of we get the kind of emotion of the backstory of Bane, and we see where Bane is right now talking to the Psycho Pirate. So what did you make of that opening scene?
I thought it was pretty cool. It almost feels like they're trying to bridge the gap between the Bane in the comics and the Bane from the Nolan films. It's almost like they're just kind of saying, let's kind of de-comic book Bane a little bit, like especially having him just be there without any clothes on and just having this like cool conversation with the Psycho Pirate, right? So I like that aspect of it because to me, Bane in the comics was cool and stuff, but he was just never as like emotionally threatening as he was in those movies. So I hope they do something kind of cool with that and do its own thing, but kind of tone it down from the Bane that we've seen before, and it might work, I think, a little bit better for the book.
hmm Yeah, I agree with you. I'm pretty excited about how they are setting up Bane, and yeah, maybe drawing a little bit of emotional inspiration from the Nolan movies. But to me, I was just really impressed for that opening scene. Like, this is wow, this is a really rich way to open up a story.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Very cool visuals. It fits the comic book medium for how they sort of build up those panels of the tides coming in.
Yeah.
And I could just feel it, that tide coming in and the claustrophobia and then the leeches and stuff on him. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is really a pretty intense experience that Bane went through for years. And then
Mm-hmm.
just imagine kind of what that did to his psychology and his, not only physically but psychologically. So definitely a powerful introduction to the character. And then you get that with this setting of the skulls and like a naked Bane right there on
Yeah.
his throne of skulls type of thing. So a very,
Mm-hmm.
very potent opening scene.
Yeah, definitely. And the artist there, he really, his skills were really put to good use there. I think he did a really great job in this issue as well as that Batman Rebirth, the one that started it off.
Right. Yeah, I agree. The art looked really good and was very, very striking in this opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
So then we see Bruce Wayne, and he's concerned still about Gotham Girl, who's kind of recovering. But we see that Bruce Wayne is going to be going off and kind of forming his team. So that's reminding us, though, that Gotham Girl is there and she's recovering from the events of the first arc with
Mm-hmm.
Gotham. I Am Gotham.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, and I like the fact that it's kind of continuing the story, and it's setting up kind of this little mini Batman family that Batman's got going on with Duke and Alfred and her and things like that. And I like that shot where he kind of looks at his parents' picture and referring
hmm
to if things get easier, et cetera, et cetera. It was a kind of a cool touch.
Yeah, that was nice. And it gives us a little bit of time to catch our breath after seeing that intense Bane stuff. Because the rest of the issue also is pretty intense because
Hmm.
then we go as Batman, he's going through Arkham and he's going to recruit and pull together his team. So some great scenes. He's walking through uh, a set of villains. We see villains around as he's going through Arkham Asylum. We get little snapshots of some of them, but he's going and he's picking his team for some reason. So first up,
Hmm.
we get the ventriloquist. So what'd you make of his addition to Batman's team?
Oh, it was pretty cool. I mean, a lot of that scene seemed like it was Batman going through the asylum and, reasons to show different members of the Rogues Gallery. But I did enjoy that, the scene with him because I was a big fan of when he was introduced during the Norm Brayfogle run back in the 90s.
hmm And I thought that was cool too, where the ventriloquist, Arkham says they've been making some progress with him, and they got him away from his, dummy
Yeah.
being the one that tells the ventriloquist what to do. And then Batman kind of tells the ventriloquist what to do, and the ventriloquist is like, "Aha! I have somebody else to tell me and boss me around." It's almost like the ventriloquist wanted somebody to boss him around, or that's how I took it.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to do it, definitely.
hmm And then we see a Jane Doe is one of the people who's just in Arkham, and she draws the Legion ring on the window. So I took that to be Saturn Girl, who was actually introduced in the Rebirth special. So Saturn Girl
Oh,
is here in the universe. I'm not sure if they're going to do something with her later, but they're definitely reminding us that she's around.
that's pretty cool. I didn't catch that. That's kind of a neat touch as well.
Yeah, and it was interesting too. So somebody on Twitter, I should give them credit, but I can't remember who it was, but noticed that right when Jane Doe was the person, that was being seen in Arkham Asylum,
Okay.
was when Commissioner Gordon was lighting his pipe, and so it actually turns out that Commissioner Gordon wasn't who we thought he was. He was somebody impersonating Commissioner Gordon. So it was kind of telling that the exact moment that Commissioner Gordon lit his pipe, which is what gave him away, then we actually had the name Doe in the panel. So kind of
Hmm.
showing that, oh, this is not somebody that you think it is, or it's a kind of unconfirmed identity.
Yeah, one thing I really liked in that scene too is where Batman's basically saying like he filled an asylum full of crazies. What else couldn't he do? It's kind of an interesting point because to me that it could be a Batman story in itself. Is Gotham better because of Batman doing this, or did the more crazies come out of the woodwork because he's doing it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Hmm.
We get a little taste of action because he recruits the Bronze Tiger, and they kind of have a little tussle, um, almost kind of like to just show that they have a history together. They
Yeah.
have fought before, they know each other's style, and so it wasn't like an animosity type fight. It was more like a reconnecting type fight. But I
Yeah.
thought it was cool to see Bronze Tiger because Bronze Tiger is one of the original Suicide Squad members, from the Ostrander run,
That's right.
and he has not really gotten the attention in the Suicide Squad books. So it's going to be cool to see him here in Batman's kind of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I enjoyed that scene as well for the reasons you mentioned in the introduction, but also it reminded me of in an action movie where kind of two guys that really need to work together, just kind of showing each other what they can do. It kind of
Hmm.
had that bravado to it, a little bit of like, macho kind of cheesiness to it, but it worked well for the scene, I think.
Hmm. So then we get Julie and Punch, and Punch is the guy who was actually impersonating Commissioner Gordon, but Batman, of course, being very observant, had already figured out that it wasn't Commissioner Gordon, that it was this Punch guy.
Right.
But it looks like Batman is recruiting Julie to be on the team as well. I don't have many thoughts, or I don't have much history with her as a character, so I'll just wait to see what happens with her later in the story.
Yeah, that must have been a separate thing. It wasn't like part of the Royal Flush Gang or something like that, was it?
Not, I don't think so. No.
Yeah, no, so it must have been from like a less known story. But I mean, obviously, that the history of those characters goes back to like, mythology and things like that and fairy tales. So they could do a lot with that as well.
Cool. And then we have a build up to. Well, I should say I just enjoyed a lot of these Batman scenes. Like he definitely had the Batman attitude, and like you said, the art did a really good job of
Yes.
capturing these iconic Batman moments,
Yeah.
like him coming into the cell, definitely taking command of the whole room. He figured out that who Punch was right away and had deduced that, and he strong arms Arkham himself and says like, "No, you're going to give me the team that I want," and he's able to kind of hold leverage over him too. So a lot of really strong Batman character moments.
Yes, definitely. And this Tom King guy is doing a good job. I mean, for having to jump all over the place story wise, because, it went from that opening story to the Monster Men to this.
Hmm.
He's doing a good job keeping the thread of the stories kind of, seeing it through and keeping the character Batman, essentially the same in every book. So that's good.
Right, and we have Psycho Pirate who is talking to Bane, which is kind of gives us a connection to the previous stories, so that's a good thread there too.
Yeah, that's got potential too because Bane's already crazy. So what the heck's going to happen to him when they influence him with the Psycho Pirate, right?
Yeah, he was almost using Psycho Pirate to kind of calm him down or make him more content because Bane is kind of
Hmm.
so off his rocker. Yeah,
Yeah, so it should be
I'm
pretty cool.
exactly. And so that leads us to the last member of the team who Batman was very intent on having on his team. And it's not revealed till the last page, but it ends up being Selena Kyle Catwoman, who was there in
Right.
Arkham, and Batman seemed like he really had his heart set on her on the team for some reason.
Yeah, so that definitely the introduction to that was handled in a different way. They really were giving a big homage to Killing Joke, and you really felt that it was going to be the Joker because the dialogue was almost the same, and it
Mm.
worked really well. That ended up being Catwoman. It was a little bit tongue in cheek that you thought it was going to be the Joker, but it'll be cool because Batman's got history with Selena Kyle, as we know, and she definitely is a character that can kind of be a hero or a villain at times. So definitely works with a Suicide Squad type team.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how Batman's team works together and how he manages to control all of them. But I'm also really excited to see this version of Bane. I haven't
Me
read a
too.
good Bane story for several years, so I'm really looking forward to this. So this, in terms of getting me excited for the story arc, job well done on this issue.
Yeah, it definitely pumped things up, and should be interesting to see what happens next.